want to introduce Colonel Sullivan of the United States Marine Corps, who was yesterday promoted in the Mansfield room. I happened to be there, and he looked great in his uniform and with all his family, so we're proud of you. And before you start, I'm going to get up for a second because I've got to make a phone call, so in case I'm not back when you finish, Senator Bozeman is going to conduct the rest of the meeting.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you being there and so many of my other colleagues. Mr. Secretary, welcome back. I'm glad you're on the job. I know it's not an easy job and probably one of the hardest jobs in Washington, if not the hardest job in Washington, but probably one of the most important jobs. So I personally am glad you're there. So I want to talk to you about a couple of specific Alaska issues. You know, one of the things that you committed to me on is getting up to the state, is my state. Soon in your tenure, I know your staff and my staff have been looking at possibly confirming dates for the third week of October. And as luck would have it, that is when the Alaska Federation of Natives is going to be meeting in Anchorage. So that's the large AFN is an annual meeting. It has all of our thousands and thousands of Alaska Natives who constitute almost 20% of the population in my state meet together. Very importantly, from the VA perspective, these are some of the most patriotic Americans in the country. They serve at higher rates in the military than any other ethnic group, like Native Hawaiians and American Indians. Decade after decade, even though, let's face it, you know, after World War II or Korea or Vietnam, they came home to a country that didn't always treat them so well. So I would welcome your commitment to participate in this conference, whether by giving a speech or convening a Native Alaskan Veterans Roundtable with me, or both. Of course, we'll coordinate with the executive director of that organization, but I think they would be excited, particularly given how many veterans you will see. You will have an opportunity to meet literally with thousands of Alaska's finest, most patriotic citizens.
Senator, I'm planning to be in Alaska for several days, including that conference. I'll actually be in Anchorage the day before the conference convenes, so I'm looking forward to that. So I will be there for a while.
Okay, well, let's try to work together and get. It's a great opportunity, and it's fortuitous timing. Let me talk about another issue, both kind of at the national level, but again also an Alaska issue. You know, one of the important issues that we addressed in the Mission Act was prompt payment for providers, and that's been a issue that's bedeviled the VA, and as you know, it has a real negative domino effect because you have these providers who want to serve veterans, and then they're not getting paid on time. They have problems meeting their own payrolls, and next thing you know, they're turning away veterans even though they don't want to turn away veterans. So the Mission Act establishes a prompt payment standard. I want to get your views on how you think that's going. Granted, we just passed the bill. The President just signed it just a couple months ago. And then more specifically, I have a constituent of mine, Joyce Abanga, and her husband, who's a 21-year veteran, Lieutenant Colonel, U.S. Army, 2 combat tours. They're small business owners in Alaska. They have an operating home health agency that has a backlog of pay of over $100,000 with the VA, and they're getting ready to do what other providers have to do, which is turn away veterans because they're almost, you know, they're having a hard time. So I'd like you to get your commitment to work with me and my staff on that specific one, but more broadly for this hearing and the other senators here, how is that going? It's such an important issue. I know you can't turn on a dime on it, but boy, it's really important. And now it's in law. I mean, you have to do it. So I'd like an update on that.
Senator, now we are turning. Mission does not work unless we have that relationship with particularly small town providers, small town community hospitals. And Senator Tester sent me a letter about HealthNet, and I think this exchange answers in part his concerns, which is a concern particularly for the West. That provider is on the way out. They stopped getting new authorizations 2 months ago. VA has had to pick up the slack A few months ago, VA was adjudicating 100,000 of these small provider claims. We're now up to 700,000 a month. We're working as quickly as we can to do that. And that will hopefully accelerate when we get a new vendor on board, but it's a terrible problem. And if it doesn't work, mission doesn't work.
Well, let me just, real quick on that, we have TriWest that, I don't know if it's the same issues as HealthNet, but that's part of the network. But if I can get your commitment, your staff's commitment to help my staff and I work with this one group that is exactly the kind of people we want to keep in the system, not have to walk away. They're veterans themselves, and you know, $100,000 for a small business is
It's devastating.
yeah, devastating. Let me ask just one final question. How is morale overall? The one thing I always like to, you come in here, a lot of times you get the, you know, crap kicked out of you and everything, and so do the other employees. But the vast majority of the VA, the vast majority of the employees are focused on vets. I know that's the case in Alaska. A big part of leadership is morale, and how is it with regard to your employees? Because we need to know that too.
I'll let others make a more definitive statement. I will say that VA is calm. One of my first objectives was to do what Marines do. Air Force guys don't do it as much. Walk the post. That's why I've been across the country, to be seen and to talk to the people who work in VA. They've gone through a lot, and I'm going to refer back to something Senator Tester said in the debate on my confirmation on the floor. Their lives have been upset by an agency that's been run by, I think you said, anecdote, and the individual story that sometimes doesn't apply across the department. I will continue to walk the post. And when the opportunity presents itself, I will tell the good news stories. I'll also tell the truth. As I said at the beginning, the state of VA is better. I didn't say good or excellent. It is better, and I do think we're headed in the right direction.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Manchin.